Welcome back, everyone. Brad Burns Bridges, episode 11.
I'm Brad.
And I'm Bridges. Let's recap. Brad, it was a tough week. Tough week of college football, to say the least. The wheels are falling off the track, I believe. But yeah, tough week. On the picks, I actually did pretty well. I went 4 of 5. Brad has another tough week, goes 2 of 5. And our guest picker Austin goes 3 of 5. So that kind of puts our totals. I'm 34 of 50. Brad is 28 of 50. So I've got 6 picks in the lead right now, but a lot can change. There's a lot of games left to pick. So we'll bounce back. But without further ado, we do have another episode or another guest on the podcast for the episode. This guy is a huge Arkansas fan. He's from Fort Worth, Texas. He's actually getting married, isn't that right? You heard he's getting married?
Ju- July, here we come.
Yep. So he's about to be a married man. Without further ado, let's let our good buddy Carson Key into the podcast.
Let's
Key,
go.
what's up, man? Welcome into the pod.
It's a pleasure, Bridge.
Dude, so we were giving you a little introduction. We said you're a huge Hog fan from around Fort Worth area, and we said you're getting married. You are about to be a married man. You're our first guest on the podcast that is engaged soon to be married. How does it feel?
That's a super odd stat. But
Dude, we gotta take what we can get around here. Me and Brad run a pretty tight ship over here, so we don't have anything crazy out of the ordinary. But without further ado, let's hop straight into college football. Man, tough week, right? So we're seeing a lot of SEC teams kind of make some changes. Monday, we get the news that Jimbo Fisher is gone from Texas A&M. This feels kind of fishy to me, Brad. I don't know if there's something going on behind the scenes because, they dominated Mississippi State. They win by like 40 points. It's kind of a weird time to make a coach change. It could have happened against one of their last
Right.
games. What are your thoughts on Texas A&M and the coaching change? Do you think it was the right move? Should they have waited to the end of the season? I know that you and Carson are big Jimbo Fisher fans. So let's kind of dive into this real quick.
So, there's a lot of parts to this whole kind of saga. First of all, with the timing, it makes sense in my head, right? So, they always end up, I think they always have LSU last game of the year, right? Or towards the end.
Yeah, it's one
And
of
it's
those
always
rivalries. Yeah,
it's always an opportunity for Jimbo to, a huge win, right? Against a really good LSU team. And he's done that in the past. He's had a decent record against LSU. And so in the past, it's almost saved his season. And so the timing makes sense, right? Like they want to if the board or regents or whatever who runs this A&M program decided they want Jimbo out, it makes sense to do it before this game to give him another opportunity to save his season, right? Because if he pulls out a win against Jaden Daniels and Brian Kelly, then what do you do, right? Especially after
you
this
can't
last
fire him.
weekend,
For sure. You can't fire him.
you're in a hole. And so the timing makes sense. That's like part one. Part two is like the decision to actually fire him. It doesn't make sense if you don't have a kind of plan of attack on who you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
They must know something in College Station that we don't. Because you look at the coaching staff as it is. No one on there is taking the reins. You look at kind of who's been their coordinators in the past. Not a ton of big names. So are they throwing 100 million at some guy to come lead this program? I don't know. But my gut feeling is they have a big plan of attack to get someone a big name down in College Station. So I don't know. It's not going to be a good decision if they don't. And so I'm hoping for the sake of A&M that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Carson, being a huge Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M Aggie fan, what are your thoughts on this topic?
absolutely love it. It was probably the best news of my day that day. But I did think it was weird timing after the big win. But still, I see what Brad's saying, though. They don't even want to give him a chance to even give him any sort of ammo to have his job any longer. So I do think the timing is a good call. He definitely needed to be gone after the talent that he's had, and he's not performed at all.
Yeah, I agree, man. Here's my thought process on this. Like, I really hadn't thought about it like you had, Brad. I was kind of viewing it more of, you're right, Carson. Like, they have had talent on talent on talent. They have underperformed consistently. Some might say Jameis Winston made Jimbo Fisher. I'm not going to get into that, but Texas A&M, for one thing, is not scared, obviously, to throw money around. I think they are the exact opposite of Arkansas, actually. Like, Arkansas, you see, which we'll talk about this a little bit later too, but you'll see with the Sam Pittman saga that we've got going on here, people are scared to make moves. Is kind of the feel that I get from this. A&M, they're not waiting around any longer. They had seen enough. This was the breaking point. You bring in Petrino, which everyone beforehand was like, we need to give the reins to an offensive-minded coach. They bring in Petrino, offensive-minded guy, and you still see struggles. And I think it was a crazy thing, kind of after a 48-3 win, kind of cutting the guy right after that. But I think you're right, man. Like, I hadn't even thought about it like that. What if they go in and beat LSU? People aren't going to be near as much. The frustration levels are under control because you just beat LSU, who's your rival, right? So I think that this is a real big move by Texas A&M saying, hey, we're going to go get someone, and we are not scared to put our money where our mouth is and spend a lot of money and put it into this program, and we're going to win a national championship, whether they do or not. I'm not a big Aggie fan, but it's going to be very interesting to see. Pivoting to another SEC coaching change that was made, Will Arnett at Mississippi State's out. They obviously beat Arkansas in an ugly game earlier this year, but I think that this situation is kind of different because I think you give the reins, you promote in within your system, right, with Will Arnett, and you give the guy a chance. To me, I'm not the biggest fan of this move. I don't think that he's your coach long term, but I think you give the guy enough respect till the end of the year. You're not going to like. I just don't really like this move from Mississippi State, but they might be along the lines of Texas A&M. They might have something up their sleeve. It's not a horrible job. It's not a great job. What are y'all's thoughts on the Will Arnett situation at Mississippi State? Carson, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I thought it was super premature, um, but I mean, it's also the SEC, so you just never know how the coaching is going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, 4-6. I don't think they're going to make a bowl game. They'll win this next game. It's against who are they playing this week? Like Southern Miss or something.
Yeah. In conference matchup, I know that.
Yeah, so they won't make a bowl, but I mean, I guess when you're in the SEC, you expect more. But I still think it's super premature. They could have given it at least the end of the season, like you said. But
yeah,
I mean, not a super bad move, I would say.
Like, obviously, he's not the long-term guy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I have to bring this up. I think that both of these moves are happening due to OU and Texas kind of coming into the conference play here in the next year. I think that people are trying to solidify their coach in advance, so you're not shuffling in the offseason, potentially losing a lot of recruits. I think they're trying to give their programs time to adapt and, either sustain the recruits that they get or build upon them and get the right guys into the system. Because, when you bring in a new coach, it typically takes 2 to 3 years to get their guys into the system, right? Which is a big move, especially when you're getting Texas and OU into your conference, which are big players in the recruiting pool. That's all I've got on it. Brad, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It was a bit cutthroat to not even give him a full season. I mean, coming in, in the worst of circumstances with, the passing of Mike Leach, I mean, that locker room must have been in shambles the entire offseason. I mean, those guys bought into Mike and his program. I think they did a good job of retaining most of those players. And so you have a majority of the group back, and this guy is just thrown into an impossible situation. And let's be honest with the like the stature of this program. Like they're no Bama, LSU. Like making a bowl game is like a great season. And so to be 4-6, like you're not that far off. And you had the worst offseason imaginable. So it makes me think that there's something going on, with the locker room. He's not like the best leader of, young men. Maybe the ADs at the school don't, like his kind of direction with the program. So, I mean, yeah, given what, 10 games of kind of his tenure at the school, like something's got to be off, with recruiting or something like that we can't really see on the field. You do make a good point of kind of the new SEC with Bama or OU and Texas coming in. You're going to see a lot of more pressure around college football just with, the heightened expectations of all these programs kind of, clumping together into, mega conferences. And so I don't think the firing is over, to say the least. I think we're just getting started with these two schools.
Yeah, I agree. I just, and I obviously made the new SEC statement. I think that affects a lot more, like A&M, a lot more than it affects Mississippi State. But I think your thought process, if you're A&M, right, and you're going and firing Jimbo Fisher, is like, hey, we're bringing in talent. Recruiting is not the issue. Obviously, we've got a lot of money back in NIL's good, and we're bringing in talent. We're struggling with results, and I understand that decision, especially with that's your up on Texas right now. Like that is why you're beating out a lot of these, Texas and OU in particular in that region is like, hey, we're in the SEC, notably the best or one of the best conferences, if not the best conference consistently in college football. We've got to make a change. So I understand that. I kind of feel bad for Arnett, man. Like I feel like really he handled the situation well. He was able to retain a lot of players, like a couple of receivers. Ra Thomas, I believe, entered the portal, who was like their stud, and he was able to retain him after that.
I was surprised Rogers stayed, even
Yeah,
though he was hurt. I mean, that was good on the school to keep him.
yeah, that's kind of where my whole thought process is like he was able to retain a lot of key players, and I think that their 4 wins, 5-win season, whether you're not making a bowl, is a win in their eyes for all the stuff that they've endured. And if you made a bowl game, that's the cherry on top. It's just weird to see a coach go when you have a chance to make a bowl game. Like given you play Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl at the end of the year, but
yeah, rivalry game.
There's got to be a move we're not seeing.
Yeah, there's got to be something
exactly
behind the scenes that he's lost the locker room and all that. Speaking of losing the locker room, let's pivot on to the Arkansas Razorbacks. As you can see, we are all diehard Arkansas Razorback fans, and there's no Arkansas gear in this. I think it was a very eye-opening experience this past weekend with our team after going into the swamp and looking good, really struggling against Auburn. We'll dive into that game in a second. But before, we saw rumblings on Sunday, like, hey, a decision's coming soon. There might be a coaching change, right? And all this has seemed to kind of die out. With that being said, Pittman looks to be safe after a terrible loss at home. What should be done, in y'all's opinion, with the Pittman situation? Brad, why don't you take that one, then we'll go to you, Keeks.
It's real tough because this season's been, so much worse than kind of what we obviously are going to have high expectations, right? As Arkansas alumni, as Arkansas fans, like we're always going to be like, shooting for the stars. But like, even in like my, just like floor of expectations, I did not expect this type of season, like, especially with KJ coming back, a lot of guys on defense. It's just been kind of, the worst of anything that could have been going on. And so, but then again, I just hate, a carousel of coaches coming into a program. Just watching Iowa, Kirk Ferentz has been there like 21 years. And so I just see the value of having a guy at the helm for that long and kind of the tradition and like, standard you can build with having a grown up, leading your program. And I think Sam Pittman is a grown up. There's something about this season that just did not click at all. I don't know what it was. Was it the coordinators? Defensive coordinators fine. Was it Danny Enos? Like something wasn't clicking, obviously. And so if it were me, I would keep Sam at least one more year. He's had 2 good seasons versus 1 bad. I guess the COVID year I don't really count.
Yeah.
2 full good ones versus this one. So I would keep him. I'm usually more, lenient towards, keeping guys rather than pulling the trigger quicker than most, but that's just me. Yeah. But I would understand if they did decide to get rid of him.
Yeah, for sure. Keeks?
First of all, what a pitiful performance. I had to turn it off at half.
Yeah. Oh, well, we have a whole segment on that. Don't worry. We're going to get into that.
I had to turn it off at half. But as far as Pittman, love the guy personally. But my expectations were just high for this season compared to how they were, just because, like whenever we were in school there, like our freshman, sophomore year, I don't think we won an SEC game till our sophomore year. I think we may have won one or 2.
Junior year.
There you go. Even worse.
Junior year was the COVID year, which was 3 SEC wins that we hadn't had years.
Yeah.
Before that.
And then what? Again, Mississippi State.
State was one of them. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, love the guy personally, but I think I would have let him go. But I think the biggest problem was our retention of players from last season.
The portal was crazy.
It killed us. It absolutely killed us.
Yeah, one of the highest numbers for an individual team in the portal.
But yeah, I think I'd have let him go, to be honest.
Yeah.
What about you, Bridge?
I'm right there with y'all. I think he's a great guy, right? And I agree with the coach turnover. It's hard to be consistent. And let's be blunt. Arkansas is not a program that is notorious for 8-9 win seasons. So us going 7-5 before a bowl game, 6-6, 8-4 at the best, when we went to the Outback Bowl and won that. Those are incredible win, seasons. And as a fan base that doesn't have a professional team and that is all you're invested in, you kind of get maybe over involved in the situation, I would say. Like, you think that you can compete with an Alabama. And I'm not saying that we'll never be able to do that. But Sam Pittman takes a lot of pride in being the Arkansas head coach. And I am 100% behind him until he is told to leave. But that performance last weekend, losing 48-10 at home. We've scored a combined 13 points at home in our last 2 games. And those 2 teams, Auburn and Mississippi State, 2 of the lower teams in the SEC West. It is really hard to sit there, and I know that y'all watched the Auburn game. It is hard to sit there and say that those players were given everything that they had out there. It kind of felt like you get in a hole, right, and the belief is gone. And we kind of saw it spiral. If it's me, I wouldn't be horribly upset if we made a coaching change at the end of the year. But I also think that we have a top 25 recruiting class in the nation. And if we're able to retain those guys, I know that some of them are going on a visit. It might not hurt to stick with 1 year and let Sam Pittman. He nailed the defensive hire, right? Nailed it. He needs to make an offensive line coaching change. He needs to make an offensive coordinator coaching change, and he needs to make a special teams coaching change. There's a lot of stuff to figure out. And out of the 2 or 3 hires that he made in the offseason, which offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, strength and conditioning coach, I think he nailed 2 of the 3. I think you brought in a really good system for defense. I think that you brought in a great strength and conditioning coach, and you miss one, and it's just crazy to me how this world works. Like, you go 2 of 3, right? 66% clip. and you might lose your job because of the one that you made on offense. So the one thing that I've got to say about Sam Pittman, I'm tired of hearing the press conferences and it's his responses. It's just about these kids, man. I want someone that will die to win a football game. I want someone sitting up there like Eric Musselman and him are complete polar opposites, and they both care about their players a shit ton. But the one thing that stood out for me this week was Arkansas wins against Old Dominion, and Old Dominion gave our best chance or their best chance, and he's sitting there in the press conference, and Eric Musselman is saying, you know, he's brutal to the point, defending without fouling, A plus, and then gets into the good and the ugly, and he says it blunt, like we need to get better at this, and I respect that. I don't ever see Sam Pittman say that. I see Sam Pittman being like, oh, we just got out coached. These kids want to play. Like we need some more than that, and we need to figure it out. So I can see it both ways. I won't be upset if they.
What would you do though if it was you?
If it was me, I think you ride with him one more year and you let him try to replace offensive line coach and offensive coordinator, and because the offensive. We'll dive into that now because we'll talk about the game, what went wrong.
Ridge, I think we send Pittman off to freaking Lake Hamilton, and he can just hang out with your grandma.
Dude, he might need to. Like you said, I think it's a harder decision because he is he's such a cool guy, and he embodies Arkansas, and he obviously wants to be here. But if you look at all the hires that have been super successful at Arkansas, none of them have Arkansas ties. So I would stick with him for one more year just because of the coaching turnover. You've got a recruiting class, but I think the leash went from here to here. Like I think that there's pretty much no
real quick,
very quick.
Yeah.
Because I think that even that Auburn game, man, it was damn near a sellout. And you can go on SeatGeek right now and get lower bowl tickets for like $9 for this FIU.
I just sold mine for 10.
I've got mine up on too because I'm going out of town. But it is
sold for like crazy. $10.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm with you, Brad. I think you don't ship him out yet. I think you give him one more opportunity because you are Arkansas, and I really don't think there's many names out there this year that you can go and get that are like program changing hires. I could be wrong, but that's where I lay on the situation. With that being said, let's move into the Arkansas game and kind of dissect the performance. Obviously, there's not much good. Let's focus on what you think was the reasoning behind it, whether that's coaching, a specific side of the ball, anything. But what do you think the biggest problem with the program against the game or in the game was, Keeks?
Dude, offensive line
was
so bad.
Common denominator with watching Arkansas football this year. So
yeah, the offensive line was horrible. KJ probably had 2 seconds before he had 3 guys surrounding him every other play. You can't do anything there. Rocket doesn't even get a chance to break the line of scrimmage. Doesn't even give him a chance to even make a move on anyone. He's barely getting the ball. And hell, our defense just looked tired because they were always on the damn field. So, that was factor number 2, just how long they were on the field. They were exhausted and just getting burned.
I agree. Brad, are you drinking a blueberry smoothie, bro? That shit looks good.
Yeah.
Dude, is that homemade?
For Garen. I didn't watch too much of the game, to be honest.
I don't blame you.
But the parts I did see, lack of focus and just like you said, it was were they going 100%? Watching Polar Express during the halftime. Stupid penalties. I don't know. Their heads did not seem like in the game, which is odd coming off a win, maintaining your bowl eligibility, with a weak opponent coming up this week. You had opportunities. So, yeah, lack of focus and just it's going to be a rough transfer portal season. I think a lot of guys checked out, and this game meant really nothing to them. They already got enough film on tape for their new school. So it was sad to see, especially since you said like you said it was a sellout essentially.
Not many teams.
Fans hadn't given up yet, but looked like our team did.
Yeah, not many teams in that situation are selling out a stadium when it's not homecoming. When you're 4 or is it 3 and we were 3-6 at the time. Like that's a crazy accomplishment. I don't want to point all the blame at KJ. I will say I think Kendall Briles, he is 16th in the nation in offensive efficiency at TCU. He's had quarterback turnover there due to injuries, and he's still 16th. I think this doesn't point. I'm not saying KJ's a bad quarterback. I think that Kendall Briles and KJ's relationship was something that we undervalued and didn't give Kendall Briles credit on, because I think that under Briles, KJ looked like a draftable quarterback. And I think this year, because our O-line play is so bad, it's hard to determine, because it's hard to say that KJ's the problem whenever he's getting sacked 35 times in one game, it feels like. But I do think that Kendall Briles was able to put KJ in situations and knew what he was good at. And I don't think that that anyone else has been able to replicate, whether that was Dan Enos, even Kenny Guyton. Like we gave Kenny Guyton a lot of credit. And I'm not saying he's a bad coordinator because we haven't seen enough. But that Florida game, man, like a lot of those plays that were made were busted plays, and KJ's breaking a 20-yard run up the middle and making a play out of nothing. So I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback by any means. I'm just saying I think that Kendall Briles knew what he was good at, knew what to draw up, simplified the system to where it was, hey, you're going to make this read. If it's not there, this is what you do. And it wasn't like, hey, this is your first read, second read, third read situation. But I kind of think that both of y'all are right. I think the offensive line is the number one issue with our team, because we don't get any running, plays that gives us any easy setups. Like we don't get 5 yards on first down running the ball. We usually get behind the chains and it puts us in obvious passing downs. But I think effort and I think coaching are the biggest problems that I saw from the Auburn game, because we get in the hole early, right? And there was just no fight. It looked like no fight at all. Just bowed down, died in a hole, 48-10. Score a touchdown late. It was tough to watch. We'll see FIU. I'm not super stoked about watching that game, but we'll see. Moving on, the Hawkeyes, man. We bet on this game, and the over was 28.5. Brad took the over, and it didn't hit. Iowa scores 22 points. And
You're good on defense.
The over.
Yeah, Brad, y'all's defense is just that good.
Yeah. Rutgers
Shut them out.
Yeah, Rutgers also put up a game against Ohio State the week before. Brad, I'll kind of let you take this one, man. Iowa dominates Rutgers. We have 10 minutes left, but 10 minutes, 30 seconds. Iowa dominates Rutgers. They put up 22 points.
I'll be quick.
It still hits. Is this a good sign going forward for the Hawkeyes with 22?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great sign. How much equity do you put into it? I mean, there's no trust. Great sign. Was it a fluke? Probably. Tough game this weekend against Illinois. Big Ten West, it's always close games. Probably going to lose against Nebraska. So, I don't know. Deacon Hill, I'll give him credit. He looks a lot better. Tough injury this week at practice. Cooper DeJean goes down.
Yeah.
So he's out for the rest of the regular season.
He's the team.
So yeah, but good things. Excited for Saturday.
Heck yeah, we got 2 little topics, so we'll keep these kind of relatively short. I want to dive in. We talked about Georgia and Alabama last week. Obviously, SEC championship title game already. Both teams dominate and look good. What are your takeaways from the weekend? Will Georgia and Alabama's SEC championship game be the best game of the year? Keeks, I'll let you start.
I honestly think it will be the best game of the year. Early on, I would have said no because Alabama got off to a super slow start. But once they found their quarterback, they've been off and running ever since. I think Milroe's going to get the job done for the rest of the season. But I don't know. Georgia's a tall task.
For sure.
Freaking defense is so good, and their offense is coming along. I just think it's going to be a freaking battle down to the end. Whoever can get the most points on the board.
Yeah. Two incredible defenses.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. So
yeah,
I agree.
So the game's going to be won there.
Yeah. Brad, what do you think?
I like Georgia. I think Carson Beck is a difference maker. He's looked super sharp. He's got his weapons back. McConkey and Bowers. I'm liking Georgia here. But Bama looks good, so it'll be like I agree with Geeks. It'll be a great game.
Yeah. I think that it comes down to we were talking Brock Bowers, man, being out was a big factor. I think Georgia struggled for the weeks that he was out, like on offense. Not saying that they didn't look like a dominant football team, but they dismantled Ole Miss. They looked great. I cannot wait for this game. I think the really interesting thing that we will definitely talk about on the podcast going forward is what happens if, Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship game, and you got 12-1, 12-1, and then you have Oregon beat Washington, and you got two teams in the Pac-12 that are 12-1, and Texas wins out. There are 8 teams that could make the college football playoff, and it is insane. It's insane because how do you take back-to-back defending national championships, one loss in like 2 years, and take them out of the playoff because they lose the SEC championship game to Bama? I think it's going to be an incredible end of the year. So I think that will be the best game of the year. That is 2 juggernauts going at it with the coaching, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, both same like coaching tree. I think it's going to be incredible. Moving on to the last topic, the Hogs basketball is off to a hot start, and the Hogs look great. Who is going to lead the team in scoring is the first question, and who will be the difference maker, the MVP, for the Razorbacks this year that is going to determine our success? Geeks, I'll let you go first.
I think it's a no doubter on the leading scorer, Trevin Brazil. Yeah,
really.
I think so. I kind of forgot about him, put him on the back burner after he got hurt so early last season. I just forgot how freaking talented he is. My God, he is huge, and he can shoot from the three real well. But also, there's some guys that I just kind of overlooked this year that Battle. He's having a pretty good year so far. Ellis had a pretty good game last game. Mark even got into the mix in there. And then you can't forget about Devo. He's always a difference maker, and he brings some experience to our team. So he can help us hopefully go deep in March Madness again.
For sure. Brad, 5 minutes real quick.
Sorry, my family's yelling at me. I like Brazil. Highest score, difference maker.
Bang.
Dude, do they want to pop in and say hello to the podcast?
I don't know. I'm in the basement. They're just screaming at me.
Well, I'm with you.
I just got home last night.
The most valuable player and impact player is going to be Brazil for the Hogs. I think Battle's going to lead us in scoring, be that JD Note player off the bench. Going to be interesting to see going forward, man. That all the basketball games I'm going to be tuning into. Super pumped to get into that. With that being said, let's hop right into the college pick'em. This is a tough week. There's a lot of teams.
This is tough.
Yeah, there are a lot of teams that are playing some not as good competition. We're getting off the high that we had But real quick, we got 4 minutes, so we're gonna have to go quick. 4 of 5 is the score to beat Keeks as the guest.
Come on, Keeks.
Let's go 5 of
Got
5.
this.
First game, Louisville at Miami. Louisville's -1. Brad.
I like Louisville -1.
Nice.
Jeff Brom's doing a good job with that program. Miami's kind of all over the place. Give me Louisville.
Gotcha. I'm taking the Hurricanes, man. I think they've played in a lot of close games. They're playing at home. They're coming off a loss. I think the Hurricanes +1 is the play. Keeks.
I'm going Louisville. I actually caught a little bit of their game last week, and their offense is struggling, I would say. So I think Louisville takes this.
Gotcha. Close game here. Utah at Arizona. Arizona is -0.5. I'm going the Utes. So it's pretty much pick 'em here. I'm going to go Utah. Keeks.
I'm going Utah as well.
Brad.
Give me the Wildcats. Turnaround season for them. Playing really good. A lot of close games. Utah will be tough, but at home, I like Arizona.
Gotcha. This game circled. It is a big rivalry game. Georgia at Tennessee. Ugas -10.5. Keeks.
Seems misleading, but I'm gonna go Georgia here.
Brad.
Yeah, this one's easy for me. Give me Georgia. Tennessee looked awful last weekend. Georgia looked great. 10.5 does not seem like enough.
Yeah. Give me the Dogs, baby. Uga rolls -10.5. Brock Bowers back. They keep it rolling from their performance last week. Let's hop into the next game. North Carolina at Clemson. Clemson looks pretty good. They've picked up a couple wins. Clemson's -6.5. Brad.
Yeah, it's a little surprising. I mean, I don't think Clemson's ranked. North Carolina came in this week in the CFP poll. But at home, Dabo's kind of on a mission to prove the doubters wrong. I actually do like Clemson here, -6.5.
I am actually going to go North Carolina. I think Drake May gets it done. I think Clemson is coming off a high. I think North Carolina is going to have this one circled on their calendar and get it done. Keeks.
Yeah, I like North Carolina to cover.
Sweet. This is not game day, but it damn should be, right? We've got another Pac-12 matchup. Washington at Oregon State, or the Beavs, -1 at home. I'm taking Washington. I think that they keep the streak going. Washington +1 is my pick. Keeks.
Washington for sure. Penix is the man.
Phoenix, baby.
3 for 3, Washington.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, I think that this is going to be a good week. Dude, we just came off of a great slate on Tuesday of college basketball. There was a lot of ranked teams. I'm excited to getting into that on the podcast a little bit more as the football season winds down. But heck yeah, let's get ready for this slate, and let's hope the Hogs bounce back and look a little bit better and give us a little bit of hope. But that wraps us up for episode 11 of the Brad Burns Bridges podcast. Want to thank
Thanks, Keeks.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys,
for coming in. You got any last words?
Let's go fucking Hogs.
Let's go, baby.
Oh.
Let's go. Well, thanks, Brad, for doing it. That wraps us up here. Again, like and subscribe.